Since we're recording, I'll try to look professional. The core work group meeting went great. Jen, you were there. The big thing that we shared out, and I know Katie sent me the agenda, and I'm not trying to run this meeting, by the way. I know less about it than you guys do. The biggest thing is implementation projects and funds for potential implementation projects and the process to apply for funding. So that is probably on the agenda somewhere to talk about, and we can fill in additional information, but I'll let you guys take the lead. I think you all know Robin isn't going to be able to make it today. He got triple booked, I think, and has to be at a different meeting. Okay.
2 different meetings.
Well, I can start. We were going to start this with a Mint meter. I don't know if you guys would like to go ahead and do that or save that for maybe the next meeting.
I think we can save it.
Sounds good.
The question should be something about your card.
Right.
Well, first item on the agenda was updates. If anybody had any updates from the group they'd like to share.
I had one quick one. Well, 2 actually. Number 1, we put in for one of the Children's Catalyst grants that you guys were doing and received one for.
That's right.
Yeah, for our Safe Routes to School, and then some placemaking stuff we want to do in conjunction with the schools that are Title I schools that are doing some of the Safe Route stuff. So we're really excited about that. It's about $12,500, I think. And so half of that money will go to the placemaking aspect, and it may be at 1 or 2 locations. We'll see. You know how you just got to see what things cost and stuff. And then the other $6,500 will go towards matching funds for the Safe Routes to School programming. Because we have KDOT funding, and that covers 80% of program costs. So then we'll use that as kind of the fill-in for the 20% at some Title I schools that are near these placemaking projects. So we're pretty excited about that. That should be good. And the second update was, you remember a couple meetings ago when the NRPA gal was talking about that. Well, this week on Monday, I met with the Shawnee group that got one of those Healthy Because We Live Here grants. They have invited us to participate in that. And I mean, I don't know much about what's going to happen for now. Right now, it stands as they've got a whole bunch of events that their Parks and Rec department is already planning that they're hoping we can do health stuff at. That's where we are right now. And it'll be great if we can get into something a little meatier than that. Advent Health is part of it. They're kind of thinking about trying to do some things around Trail Ridge and Shawano Elementary, because that's a neighborhood with a lot of food insecurity. I mean, there could be some really cool things that we do out of this. So I'm sure there'll be lots of good equity opportunities, lots of good people around the table. But I think our starting point is just trying to do some things at these community events. And as we start fleshing things out more, I'm sure the activities will get a little meatier as far as digging in with priority populations. That is what it kind of sounded like.
So go ahead, Shelley.
Oh, yeah, no, you go ahead.
I'll say I emailed Shawnee, the city of Shawnee, the name of the person who received that grant. I can't remember.
Oh,
I never got a response from him.
Oh, okay. I
So-
can talk with you later and we'll figure that out.
Okay.
And I think it's Matt Mann.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I wouldn't found his information. I reached out to him because I was gonna try to have him come to one of these meetings and
Oh, yeah.
talk about the grant and what they were gonna do with it.
Okay.
But I never got a response back.
Okay. I can even do that now that
Yeah.
we've had eye to eye contact. So, so I'll kind of circle back on that. Cause
Yeah.
and I would love for it to be more than like like tables at events. You know what I mean? Like tables
Yeah.
at events are good. It's a great way to get information out about certain things, but as far as like ongoing impact, that may or may not be
Yeah.
all that we could do,
Yeah.
So I'm excited. They have it for 2 years. They're getting a trailer and some chairs so that they can have a presence at events and some equipment for like engagement activities with people, like things that they can come up and do to kind of get some of the conversations started. But then we have to figure out what those are going to be.
Okay.
Is kind of
So-
where it is for now. So
That kind of leads into one of the announcements that I have. Nicole, I'm sure you know that I was actually in your office hood this morning, not your home office hood. I saw Megan Foreman this morning.
oh yeah.
I'm on the Sexual Violence Prevention Coalition group with a couple other gals from the health department, and they are doing a community connectedness initiatives targeting Olathe, and they are doing a yard sign campaign, and all those yard signs have been printed and they're being delivered and picked up. And so we've got a couple Johnson County Park and Rec sites, and then we also have Olathe Parks and Rec is on board, and then I'm working with Mission Recreation as well to get them on board. I'd love to get Shawnee on board, but I can't get them to respond, and maybe my email's going to their junk mail.
Well, you know what? Here's what I'll say, because we're amongst friends. Now that
Yeah.
I'm on their list for something, I'll ask them about that too, because that counts for me double, because that's
Yeah.
us and here and you and all of it. So I'll put him on my list for 2 things, and just because now he has seen my face, we'll probably have a little better luck. So I'll put
Perfect.
2 things on my list for him, and I'm gonna get a pen so I can write those down.
That's fine. And so we started distributing those yard signs, and the yard signs are basically, they say like, we respect each other, we look out for each other, we help each other, and then it has a QR code on there, excuse me, that links them directly to the My Sidewalk website. And so I'll go find that link and put it in the chat box for you guys. And basically I'm trying to get multiple park and rec agencies involved, just so that way we can kind of show how much of a teamwork we are and how connected we are just with Parks and Rec in the Johnson County area. Jen, I would include you guys, but you're on the Missouri side and it's a Johnson County thing. I'm sorry, it's not personal, I promise. And so we did an early drop off at Arts and Heritage, and they went like hotcakes. We had to go do a second delivery out there, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback. The website has already had a lot of traffic as well. And basically it's just free marketing for Parks and Rec, because they've got tiles in there that are sharing to our pages. And then we also have, it talks about the neighborhood connectedness grants, neighborhood grants on that website as well too. And then the other super exciting thing, Shelly, I know you know about this already, but this is super exciting. I went to one of the Corporate Challenge board meetings the other night, and Katie Renner, she's our special events coordinator and our race director for Johnson County Park and Rec. The board, we presented to get kids more involved with Corporate Challenge to help support the mission statement of Corporate Challenges, camaraderie, healthy, whole person wellness, and then it's a family-friendly environment. So we always encourage, employees to bring their kids out, their spouse out to come cheer them on, come hang out, be social, just to build that network. And we proposed to add a kids piece to the 5K. And so they're going to now have a stroller wave at the very end. And so that's happening. The board was like, yes, that's awesome. And then Heritage Park Golf Course is where we host typically the men's golf tournament for Corporate Challenge. They just had a WeLinks, it's like 8 or 9 holes, I think it's just 8 holes, completely funded by Tom Watson and Jeff Burry. And they're with First Tee. So Shelly, I'm sure you remember those guys. They were our golf guys out there at kickoff. They completely fully funded a mini golf course out there at Heritage. And so this is to target littles and to get them out golfing. And it's gonna be like $1 or $2 to play. But I propose that we add in a kids golf tournament for this. And Bob Fessler locked onto that, loved it, wants to expand it. They have a junior course out at his golf course out at Fred Urbana's. And so we're gonna do one for littles and then one for juniors as well. And then we'll have different divisions for ages and winners. And we're gonna do it on separate days from the actual Corporate Challenge Golf Tournament, just because we know how hard it is. Drive out there, play a golf tournament, have your kids sit in the clubhouse, and then go watch them play golf. So we're gonna do it on separate days. But the board is very excited. We're starting small this year, and then next year we're going to look into adding something at the track meet, like football and soccer, and some of those others, and just sport sampling. And then one more thing, last thing. I've worked with our children's services department. They have a lights out campaign. And they used to do one big festival, kind of like a big rigs for little kids at one site, but ever since they added the Olathe School District, it's so spread out. So they now do different ones. So I am working with them and connecting them with some of our contractors that we use for sports, for specialty sports. So like Challenger Sports and Buddy Pegs and some of those other guys, they're going to go out to some of these events as well and offer sports sampling for kids at those sites before they financially commit to soccer, everything, cleats, knees, shin guards, whatever that equipment is. I didn't play soccer. And then just find out that kid doesn't want to play soccer. So we're very excited to get sports sampling rolling here. And then we'll do it again at kickoff. And we do have a date for the Corporate Challenge kickoff. Save the date, April 7th. It's a Good Friday. So.
Wait, it is Good Friday or it's a Good Friday?
It is Good Friday. That's the only date we could get from the Royals.
Well,
So-
that'll affect attendance, but
Yeah. Otherwise, we're excited because we have a date set, but this is a weird year just because they have all the rain out dates. But as of now, that's what we have. So, sports sampling is happening, getting more kids involved, and the yard saying campaign. So, yay, it's happening. Lots of things in the world. That's all I got. I'm done.
do you not want to mention the expansion of the Kids Try?
I did not get all of that because I left early because I had to go to another meeting. So I'm not as well versed on that, but yes, from what I know of, we are expanding that. Shelley, you were at that meeting. Would you be able to touch on that a little bit more?
Yeah. So Johnson County Parks and Rec offers a kids triathlon. I've been involved with the kids triathlon as a volunteer for years. We started it sort of with the kids marathon, trying to cross promote, the tri and the kids marathon. And we were involved in the water station. Well, Katie Renner, who Allison just mentioned, reached out to me to expand opportunities for kids of all abilities. So we set up an internal meeting with some, I will say, experts here at Children's Mercy in terms of setting up adaptive events, and have the goal of increasing participation from kids with differing abilities for the 2023 event, and setting up a separate adaptive try to go along with this kids try in 2024. So what we learned, and one of the guiding principles for the PA plan is equitability, and along with that is access. So access looks different for different people. This is trying to expand access for people of differing abilities. What we learned in our meeting is that sanctioning your race for kids of different abilities isn't the same as setting up an adaptive try. So many of the kids that participate in adaptive triathlons across the country, and there aren't a whole bunch of them, they require quite a bit of additional support and a few more restrictions in terms of where you can host these types of events. So the current event takes place at Kill Creek Park. It's outdoor in a lake, pond, whatever you want to call it, etc. For the adaptive try, they don't do that. They have them in pools, confined areas, making it easier to get kids in and out of the water and on and off of the type of adaptive bicycle they might need, and accommodations related to walking or that component of the race. So we realize it's going to take a lot more time, effort, set up that, and that it should be done separately. So all that to say, those are two events where we're trying to increase accessibility for kids of all abilities. And along with that, there's a goal to, and this was brought up in the sports sector. I don't know how many of you participate in the sports sector meetings as well, but in the sports sector, they've talked about making sure kids in particular, have access to equipment, training opportunities, sports sampling, those sorts of things. What we would like to do is find a mechanism to raise money for equipment, whether it's specialized equipment or just, plain old bike helmets, or we've heard that some high school girls or even early teen girls might need sports bras. It might be shin guards. It might be a variety of other things that you need to play or practice a sport. So we'd like to figure out a way that we can begin either raising funds, funneling, set up a mechanism for people to apply for funds to support their being more active, etc. So Katie has a vision for trying that with a triathlon. We hope to learn from that to make it implement it in other settings for other reasons as well. In fact, Bill Brandmeier, who is one of the co-leads for the sports sector, also has a foundation, and he's been raising money specifically for things like this. And so may have some funding to help support equipment needs, etc. We just need a mechanism for how do you access that. Anyway, other good things that are happening as a result of people attending multiple sector meetings and thinking about this a little bit more outside the box and talking to other people, bringing them into this. So it's really sort of exciting to see these new opportunities and figuring out how do we now connect them across the metro. So how can we connect it to things for people who live in Kansas City, Missouri, or who live in Platte County or Clay County or Wyandotte County? How do we make sure that these opportunities are available across the metro?
So Jen, you might be able to answer this. Does your Park and Rec, do you guys check out equipment for kids doing sports leagues?
We don't.
Okay, so I know in Lawrence, elsewhere, we had bags for coaches, coaching bags. And coaches would check them out at the beginning of the season and then return them at the end of the season. But each bag always included X amount of bats, helmets, balls, a few gloves. I'm thinking, I don't know if that would be possible. I would need to talk with our sports folks. That might be a way to get equipment available for kids signing up for some of these rec leagues. If we had just an equipment bin that they could check out for the season and then return at the end of the season, that might be a way. Because I know like a little kid's ball glove, they're going to outgrow that. They're not going to use that forever. So why not pass that on to someone else? I don't know, that's just what came to mind, Shelley, whenever you mentioned getting kids equipment that might need it. So.
There may be models I don't know, I feel like I've heard something like this before where at events or in leagues, people can bring, just like what you're talking about, Allison, like their kids outgrew whatever, their glove, their shin guards, their cleats, their bats. I mean, pick other sports. I'm focused on those two, but it's others as well.
Yeah.
And you have a place that those donations can be given, and then you have equipment that's available for people who, whether you're doing sport sampling and you want to try it in conjunction with some other event, or if somebody wants to check it out or take it
Yeah.
home or whatever.
And I thought that there was, I know there are some organizations out there that do that. They take old equipment and then they let other kids have it, or they give it to kids in need. I just don't know of any up here in the Johnson County area. I know Douglas County does it, but I'm not familiar with what Johnson County is doing on that, just because I'm not in the youth sports side anymore up
Yeah.
here, and more wellness and adult stuff.
Well, so I don't mean to throw everything at Corporate Challenge. I only do because they're a nice I mean, it's housed in Johnson County Parks and Rec, but it's by state companies.
Yeah,
And it's big. It's 200, I mean, what was the max? 200 plus, 220 companies across the
Yeah.
metro. And you have the opportunity to reach, I don't know, what is it?
it's,
25,000 employees or more.
yeah, I think it's closer to 40 or 100 or something. It's an absurd amount.
That's potential employees, but the thing
Yeah.
is the events happen on both sides of the state line and in multiple counties across the metro. And I wonder, just like you're trying out some of the sport sampling stuff, is there an opportunity to try out some of this sport equipment donation? Like here, we're gonna have a place that we're just gonna have a bucket. I'm making this up, a bin, whatever. If you have equipment, unused or gently used equipment that you would like to donate for us to use for practices, sport sampling camps, whatever, again, I don't want it to, I think the language we use here is important. I don't want it to sound like this is just for, if you take this, that means you're poor. I don't want people to,
Yeah.
How sometimes these can be misconstrued. Maybe it's just that you don't want to buy it because you don't know if you're going to like the sport. Maybe you just, use it for a period of time. And now we have this mechanism to bring it back when you're done, as long as it's not broken or,
Yeah.
whatever. Is
So,
there,
yes, I think that would be definitely a great opportunity for Corporate Challenge to offer and or tap into, especially when it comes to being family friendly. I know that I invited Chad and Katie to both attend the sports sector working group, and I believe they did. I have been on the go so much, I apologize. I've not talked with my office mates much. But I think that would definitely be a good question for Chad, and see if he might be able to figure out where we could plug that in at. And even if we did something at the kickoff zone. So we used to have a kids garage sale. And we would have parents sell like clothing and old sporting equipment and other stuff that kids have outgrown. That was a huge hit, but pandemic hit and we stopped doing that. I do want to bring that back. So maybe we have something like that and we promote on the sports side heavy. If you have old equipment you want to get rid of, if you don't want to sell it and you'd rather donate it, here's a donation bin. So we might even be able to have that at one of our events as well. That's outside Corporate Challenge, but
yeah,
I would have to talk with Chad about that and see what his thoughts are and how we can plug that in. Because I could see some companies actually wanting to sponsor that. Because our group, our beneficiary for the year is Cornerstones of Care. And so they work with a lot of kids, and a lot of companies have gotten involved with them. It's going great. So I might need to hit them up and see if they do anything sports specific in regards to that. And then maybe we could have them kind of, I don't want to dump it on them, but they might be able to spearhead taking donations, because they would be able to see those kids more firsthand, because they're working with them firsthand than what we are. So cornerstones of care, that's where my head's at. So I will talk with Chad about that and see if that might be an option to where we add that at the track meet or something. Hey, if you have gently used equipment, you want to donate it? Here we go. Cornerstones of Care can use it. And then that can be, I don't want to say a check mark for the plan, but something else that's getting awareness out there. Thoughts on that? Does that sound like a decent idea?
I like it.
So that does sort of lead into the next topic. Well, it's not quite the next topic. The next topic is about the special event and highlights of the presentation and the recording. But I'm going to skip ahead for just a second to go to the implementation group. Our implementation funding. Because based on some of the ideas we've talked about, this sector could choose an implementation project and then apply for some internal funds through the KCPA plan to support the project. So there are 10,000, based on a foundational grant that was given to us to support the physical activity plan. There are about $10,000 available to each sector to apply for to support implementation projects. There are some, let's see, Katie, I don't know if you can bring up that document that has sort of the guidelines in it. The application process, we intentionally want it to be pretty simple. The expectation is that based on the program or project identified, it would align with the strategies already identified in the sector. So for example, some of these ideas that we've talked about might align with either Parks and Rec or sport. And so we'd want to make sure that looking at the strategies for those two sectors, which one it aligns with better, so that the project is coming from the sector with the strategy it aligns with the best, if that makes sense. And we ideally want it to be a multi-level project. But $10,000 are available. For smaller projects, that can be a lot of money. You don't have to have just one project applying for $10,000. You can have multiple projects that are applying for the 10. With that being said, if you have multiple projects, those different projects can hit different levels so that together they're hitting more than one. Oh, there we go. I was just about to bring it up. Katie, I got your text. Okay, so the levels are like interpersonal and individual, built environment or design, and here are some examples related to this. Organizing or advocacy, so this might be building additional coalitions, or I know the sports sector has talked a little bit about the Aspen Institute's State of Play could be supporting report from that group, sort of like what was discussed at the sector special event. It could be policy related. An example of that is what's going on in the healthcare sector, and that's reimbursement, billing and reimbursement for physical activity assessment and counseling. It could be expenses related to shared use agreements, getting those in place, whether it's a lawyer to review the agreement to make sure it's okay, or, you know, coordination between two different entities, or how you make sure that agreement's in place and who can use it. It could be pay what you can for sports league fees. So it would be offsetting funds that would, or expenses related to paying league fees. Professional development that is related to changing district policy related to physical activity opportunities in school. Those are just some examples. We would like it to be cross-sector. All the examples we've talked about today really are because it's sports and parks and rec. Schools could be thrown in there if some of the park and recreation activities take place at schools. It could be healthcare related. So Nicole's already talked about an example that would tie into healthcare. So those cross-sector ones would, I guess, hit the bar or hit our goals a little bit better. And we want them to identify what the next steps would be. So if this project is doing something, what's the next step afterwards? Like, what's the intent and the overarching purpose? Where are you hoping to go? The applications will be reviewed on a quarterly basis by the core work group. So for the co-leads of the sector, you guys will see them. It's your job to bring the projects to the core work group for review. And to help, like if there are multiple ideas, what's the one or two that are going to rise to the level of submitting the application to the core work group, if that makes sense. And also negotiating between sectors. Is this going to come from the school sector, the park and rec sector, the sports sector, if there's cross-sector involvement in the project? So those applications we brought to the core work group. Core work group will review and sort of prioritize based on the amount of funding available and how well it aligns with strategies. Is it multi-level? Is it cross-sectoral? And does it identify the next steps? First round of proposals will be reviewed in December, assuming we receive some proposals. Again, subsequent rounds will be reviewed quarterly. So March, June, September, and December until the funding is spent. We are starting with $10,000. We hope that and have an expectation that there would be more available later. And if some sectors don't apply, so for example, public health may not be able to apply or may not have plans to apply for anything until they get through the strategy identification process and tactics. And they may not be all the way through that by the end of next year. So there may be funds that they haven't spent that would be available. Same thing with business and industry. And if there are sectors that don't have a need for these yet, because another sector is applying for it, again, there might be additional funds available as we go through this process of receiving and approving applications. Thoughts or questions on that?
No, but I did want to say if our group came up with we have so many ideas floating around. So if we came up with a priority, I'd be happy to try to help write it up, whatever that looks like. So, if we came up with something concrete we wanted to try to do through this group, I'd be happy to help.
And keep in mind, it can align with other things that are already going on. So for example, here's one example that I've been thinking about. It's healthcare sector related. So that's one of the sectors that I support primarily. In the healthcare sector, we support the Just Walk program. I think you all know what that is. We meet right now once a month, second Saturday of the month. It's led by a healthcare professional. There's 5 to 10 minute conversation on a health related topic. The rest of the hour is spent walking, and you have the chance to talk to healthcare professionals about your questions, the topic they brought up, something else related to health, etc. Right now, we do that in one park in KCK. We've explored expanding into Johnson County, and we've explored expanding down here. So for example, there's a park right across the street from where I'm sitting right now, Hospital Hill Park. We could meet there as a site. There might be other places in KCMO. So they're already meeting at the Southeast Community Center for one group of walks, but there might be other places, Jen, that you know about, that you have leaders who would, or people who are interested in participating. So one idea I have is applying for funds to continue to support Just Walk walks. And what that means is we pay a small fee to the Walk with the Doc organization that allows for us to have a page on their website identifying all the walks where they might be. They will update the website for us. they send us a Just Walk kit that has t-shirts that we can use. They have a process for us to gather information and track it. And then we're part of a larger group that's moving walks forward. So they help connect people regionally. They help you get the word out. So there's some benefits to being involved in this larger organization. So one idea I have is applying for funds to support expansion of Just Walk in conjunction with things that are already happening. Like Nicole, what you've already talked about, we can do it at other parks across the community. We could do it at schools. We could do it in, again, like I said, Casey Mo. In fact, faith-based settings we did one walk, not multiple walks, but it might be nice to have this done in conjunction with a faith-based setting. So you meet at the church and you're doing it with people that you already know and go to church with. And now you're just trying to all create a support group around physical activity and health.
Well, and we're still talking about that. We just haven't had a chance to get further along because of the extension, I think, is still interested too. But I mean, I like that. That would be like to kind of have like little stipends to help people get started, I think is a great idea. And that certainly could take advantage of parks and infrastructure and all those kinds of things too. So
Yeah,
I think
but
that's certainly one good idea.
Yeah. So it'd be cross-sector, but the funding would come from like one of the sectors versus all of the sectors, if that makes sense.
Right. So, that's something for us to think on, I think that's certainly a good idea. I also was just kind of thinking, I don't know, because some of the ideas I had wouldn't take all the money. So I don't know if you just get one idea.
No, multiple ideas
Okay. Because
up to the $10,000.
Okay, there. That's my kind of thinking. So maybe, I can remember I have 3 boys. I think that something around the try it out aspect of sports, like these lending bags and things like that. Because like here's a silly example, but my kid played year-round baseball at 3 and 2, and that's like $1 million escapade right there. But you could sure tell a difference between the teams where the kids had help with their equipment and the ones that didn't. You know what I mean? And it makes a difference as you get older. And if you never have the chance to get started, even, I don't know. I think that that's a real barrier. Not that I'm saying everyone should play year-round baseball, but I do think equipment and all of that is a real barrier for people. Because the league fees, they're reasonable for what they are. Because it's a lot to run leagues. It's expensive. But if you don't have means, if you also have to support another $200 for equipment every year, that's a barrier for people. So I maybe we could do some equipment purchase to get people going with their bins or something. I don't know. You know what I mean? Kind of offset some of the startup costs of doing collections like that. If they were willing to help, like maybe we buy the big bags for the coaches or something. I don't know, just like seed stuff, to help people get started. I don't know, just another kind of smaller idea.
So I realize this is a small group that's meeting today. Other people may have other ideas that they've been thinking about or working on or think make great connections. I don't know how you all think it would be best to get more input. So Katie will be putting, you guys have all seen this. She'll be putting together a newsletter with information after this meeting. Of course, the recording will be available. We'll have some information about implementation projects, but I'm not sure what you think would be the best to include in there to get the group to provide feedback to support submitting a project idea, and how you would then decide which one you want to bring to which one or multiples you want to bring to the core work group. And keep in mind, you don't have to send one in December.
Right.
You can wait, think about it, come up with them different ideas, develop it, send them for review in March.
So I wonder if we would want to start with asking if people could try to bring, like, the people who couldn't be with us today, give them the chance to kind of review if there's anything that they could review to give them the background about what this is and how, like, even just a little paragraph or two. And then ask them to come if they can at our next meeting with one idea or an idea. And, or if they can't, send us a paragraph with their idea, because they can still have an idea even if they can't come. Because I could even see, does Girls on the Run have startup costs that a school has to absorb? I'm just totally making things up, but maybe I could think of a million things that we wouldn't have to be funding the whole thing, but we'd be expanding good things that are already going on. I bet there's a ton of ideas like that we could, if we had some criteria that we want to go with more disparate locations or places that haven't had access to programming before. I don't know. I can just think of several like mini projects we could do that maybe could help us really get some good engagement among committee members.
So whenever that newsletter does come out, with the project, Nicole, I think this would be great if we shared it with Barbara to share with the Community Health Network.
Oh yeah, because if people that we're partners with have ideas, we certainly could bring those forward too.
Yeah, I know, a lot of those folks would actually plug in and definitely overlap some of the cross-sector work groups. I think that would be wonderful if we did that.
Yeah.
So I definitely see that happening. I could see part of this helping fund the startup for the Kids Try, the new one. So I think that would be fantastic. And I've already got ideas rolling around in my head. So
Yeah, and we can just do some kind of a simple, I hope we have so many ideas we don't know what to do with them. That would be great. And we can do some kind of simple I'll just say like elimination challenge or something. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like if there's too many, we can kind of sort out, feasibility, who has time, we can come up with some kind of rubric to make it fair. But
well, and we can talk about the impact that funding will have on that program. That might help us determine who gets what.
Yeah. And I'm sure that there's some kind of document we have to fill out, is that I'm sure, or something to give to the decision group.
We're trying to figure that part out. What's the best way to have these submitted? Is it just, Allison and Jen figuring, deciding? We don't have the answers to that, but we want the group to start thinking about projects and know there's funds available, and those things we're less concerned about that. More concerned about thinking about it.
What might be a good starting point is kind of using something like of that portal like you guys did for Catalyst, just because it didn't take long at all to fill that out, but you had to have some concept of what you wanted to do though. I mean, that was pretty straightforward. Maybe we could come up with some kind of a guidance document like that, even for our mini group, to kind of help. And that's somewhat already set up in REDCap somewhere. So that would maybe be not too.
Yeah, we just don't have access to it because it didn't come from our group, but
somebody could probably share the questions over to you or something. I don't know. It just was, or I might have them still.
What was it again, Nicole?
Well, that little project that I told you I got funded from Children's, they had this just really nice, pretty straightforward REDCap survey that you just answered some questions, and it kind of
like 8 questions or something, and what's the purpose and what are you doing?
But they were super straightforward. It was pretty, it was not like writing a grant. You just had to know what you were going to do, how much you were going to spend, who you were going to do it for or with. Like, it was just the nice who, what, where, when, why, how, and what you thought your impact would be, which, before we want to decide amongst ideas, I think it'd be fair to ask people to have that much information together. Just something, instead of going, hey, what do you think about,
So
just a bit of thought.
I think that would be fantastic if we did that. My other question is, are we going to require follow-up?
What do you mean?
Like for most grant work, you have to provide documentation on, hey, we spent this money on this, here are pictures, this is our number of participants affected and or who benefited from this.
Something like that.
Okay,
So
but
they'll have to be, whoever the project lead is, will have to provide at least an oral report to the core work group. And then we want to know what the outcomes we're measuring are. So there's this is not complicated. We're not asking for statistical analysis of,
Yeah.
whatever.
But I always think it's fair to ask for something,
Yes,
because that's kind of I hate to say proof, you know what I mean, but that's
how
like,
will you know if your project was successful?
or that it all actually happened,
True.
that it all was done.
And the other piece is related to the funds. So for example, sometimes it's hard for us to just distribute the funds to another entity. So it might be that here's the budget, you submit expenses, we pay for the expenses and we're tracking it. So we haven't quite ironed out those pieces yet either. It might depend on,
Oh, yeah, depending on who
project.
it is. Yeah, because if they don't have well, like I'm going to say a checkbook per se, or the right kind of fiscal.
we don't have a checkbook. We've
Yeah.
got
Yeah. So, and also the receiving entity too, like the whole thing, it can be a lot more complicated than you think. It is easier sometimes to say, we'll pay your bills.
right.
I think that'd be good. The other thing I think would be cool just for us to see, maybe we provide some of those parts about the KCPAP and some of the things that we're trying to check mark and get accomplished here. That way it'll get other folks thinking on what else can benefit from this
Mhm.
program. So just a thought.
Yep.
So guys, we're down to 5 minutes until the end of this meeting. Before we do end, I'd like to discuss setting up the next meeting. Just because we meet the last Wednesday of every month at 12 o'clock, and this one would fall on Thanksgiving. And then our December meeting would actually be on the 28th. So we might need to kind of navigate and just do a meeting a bit earlier in November, if that works. Does anybody have any preferences? We could do.
I think, yeah, or splitting, or depending on how, I know we want to keep meeting all the time, but also maybe just splitting the difference. And if we need some time to get if this is what we were just discussing is going to be the meat of our next meeting, we want to make sure we have time to get information out to everybody. Just, so, or if we're going to discuss that in December, I just don't know how fast we can pull, depending on what we had on the ticket for November was all I was thinking.
Yeah. So
what if November we get that application knocked out and finalized and
just
blessed?
skip November and then meet in December.
Yeah, or we could maybe meet just to talk about how we want to roll this. I don't know what you guys have on the agenda. I was trying to think in my head, is it better to take more time so we have everything ready and just meet like one time in between our two normal meetings, or to go ahead and meet in November and December? That's what all I was really thinking.
Here's just one piece of information I'm going to share to help make this decision. The core work group will meet on December 20th. So if your goal is to submit something to be reviewed at that meeting, whether it's one or two meetings, if it's one meeting, it'll be easy to do before the 20th of December. If you want to have two meetings, I just want to put that out there as a consideration as you set them up.
Right. It would be great to have something for December for the core group. Do we think we can pull that off?
Yes,
Okay.
I think you guys can pull it off.
Okay, well then we probably should go ahead and meet sometime before Thanksgiving then, so people have time to finish up before it's due, right?
What do you guys feel about November 16th? I know that's only a couple weeks away, but it's the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Let me peek.
Just to clarify, the purpose of this meeting is for us to come up with some kind of application for our sector. Is that what we're doing in November? and then getting it out and trying to review in December.
Or do we want to start reviewing completed applications in December on who's gonna get what?
Right.
It would be what you're taking to the core work group. Does that make sense, Allison?
My wheels are slow on this one, sorry.
So one way of looking at it, so is kind of what Jen was saying. The meeting in November would be, well, first of all, let me back up. In the newsletter, we'll be sending information out about implementation projects, and we want your ideas. Share them like this, and they'll go to Allison and Jen. And then at the November meeting, it could be, hey, here are the 5 ideas that were submitted. What do you guys think? Do these make sense? How would we write this up as a full project? Are they all complete? Is this just an idea? Do we have a budget with it? Or what are all the things we would need to submit these 5 ideas? And then it would be, and by the way, who's going to lead them? So identifying leads for them. Do they all make sense to come out of this sector? Who else do you need to talk to? What are we going to move forward with? Maybe we get 10. We're going to narrow it down to 5. I don't know. You guys would have to decide. Then the December meeting would be, all right, now we're going to review those, I'm making it up, 5 projects. Do they have everything in them? And are we going to take all 5 to the core work group? And those would be submitted for review at the core work group meeting on the 20th. And then you guys as co-leads would be explaining or advocating to the rest of the group who might not be participating in these conversations. Here's what we're doing and why. Here's how it's multi-level. Here's how it aligns with our strategies for the PA plan, whether it's this sector or another sector from a cross-sector perspective. Here's how we're considering equitability. Here's how we're considering access. Here's how we're considering.
So the November meeting is to bring ideas to, start reviewing. And then the December meeting is when we're going to pick which ones actually get funded and then explain to the rest of the core group later on that month at the next meeting, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how we think that we can cross collaborate with different sectors. Am I on the right track?
Yeah.
Okay. Jen, are you cool with that?
Yeah, I think that if we want to get anything in by December, that's how we would probably need to make it work. I think I like the idea of the meeting on the 16th and then maybe giving some time and meeting before the core work group on the 20th, maybe on the 14th of December, that Wednesday.
Yes. Yes to both of those. I support November 16th and December 14th. Because I know I can email out Parks and Rec folks in the Johns County area about this. I might even be able to get Carrie PA to send something out, but I guess it'd only be available for certain counties, not all of Kansas. So
Does
I
KFPA have like districts?
yeah,
Okay. MPR does too, but I don't know. There's like 4 of them, I think.
yeah, I gotta call the girls and see how that would break down and if they have a mailing distribution broken down. Otherwise, I'll just be rifling through the directory, which is fine. I know the majority of the people, so I can just email them out and forward on that newsletter and share, hey, this is happening, there's money available. Let's go. Yes, noon works for both of those for me, Katie. Thank you.
Yep.
Cool. All right, November 16th, December 14th, noon. It's a date. It's happening virtually online. I can't wait to see you all there. I will keep an eye out for the newsletter with the details about the grant. And I'll
Okay.
start passing on to the Kansas people. Jen, are you cool with passing on to Missouri people?
Yep.
I'll be
Cool.
sending those newsletters, by the way, to both you, Allison, and Jen for approval before I send them out. So keep an eye out for that email first, okay?
Okay.
Perfect. I won't
Thank you.
forward anything yet. So I don't have anything to forward yet. So
Thanks. I am almost done. I was waiting until this meeting to finish like including any information that seemed valuable to include. So hopefully by like the beginning of next week, I'll have something to you.
Perfect. The rest of this week is insane for me, so that's totally fine.
Awesome.
Also, if anyone wants to go to a free trick or treat event, we have one at Heritage Park on Friday. I will be dressed as a inflatable dinosaur.
Sweet.
a
Short
tri-
arms.
Actually long arms. I'm a triceratops, so I have a giant head.
Oh,
Very exciting. So Lacey's gonna be our T-Rex with the short arms. So. I'm probably gonna pass out like stickers or something or wristbands because I don't want to pass out candy because I just don't feel right passing out candy because I'm a wellness coordinator.
well, they're gonna get a ton of candy.
They are, which Natural Grocers is coming and they're passing out like healthy stuff and then stickers.
They
So I-
passed out what they called healthy stuff at the corporate challenge. They're cookies. Organic sugar, still sugar.
Yeah,
You know, organic whole grain cookies are still cookies.
yeah. So I'm still working on trying to incorporate some physical activity stations over there. So yes, good things to come.
Who wouldn't like to see a dinosaur hula hooping?
Exactly.
Just
I don't know, the waistline
Something
on that
wrong.
thing's pretty big. I think the hula hoop might just be on
Like a belt.
as a decorative belt, then I
and
can.
you'll be really good at it.
It won't fall. I could beat my record.
Right, you win. You already win. Set yourself up to be a winner, Allison.
Yes. Perfect.
Oh, wait,
Okay,
we're still recording.
we are. That's okay. We can talk about
Alright.
dinosaurs. I don't care.
I can always
Edit
take
that
off
off
this
then.
bit on the video editor. That's okay.
It's fine. Leave it. So, all right, I'm gonna hop to another meeting. Ladies, it's always a pleasure. I will see you all soon.
Good to see y'all.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.